Welcome to SRIRAM's IAS. So today we'll resume our series of previous year questions of medieval India. Actually in the announcement we said ancient and medieval because there is a borderline, there are some questions which come on the borderline of ancient India. So that's why that has been mentioned there. So without wasting any time, let's proceed to the very first question. Okay. So the very first question is about kings and dynasties they belong to. Okay, first of all, please look into the question. If you look into the question, we'll find Nanuka Chandela. Okay, it is the first option which has been given. Now the first pairing is Nanuka and Chandela, which is absolutely right. Nanuka was the founder of Chandel dynasty. Okay, and along with being founder, and where was this Chandel dynasty? In the Bundelkhand region. Okay, so this is absolutely right. Now, the next statement is about Jai Shakti belonging to Parmars. This is wrong. Why this is wrong? Jai Shakti was the son of Nanuka. So he belonged to the same dynasty which was Chandela. So the second one is wrong, second pairing is wrong. The third, Nagbhat Gurjar Pratihar, which is right. Okay, Gurjar Pratihar about Nagbhat II is the correct pairing, and Nagbhat II belonged to the dynasty of Gurjar Pratihara. And what about the fourth one? Bhoj. Now Bhoj was not belonging to Rashtrakutas. Bhoj belonged to Parmars. See, the thing with Bhoj is that Bhoj was a title. Bhoj you can find in a number of places in the medieval part of India. Bhoj was a title taken by the king. But the Bhoj which has been mentioned in this particular case is belonging to, used to belong to Parmar dynasty. So the fourth one is also wrong. So 1 and 3 and only 2 pairs are right. So B is the right answer. Okay. Now moving ahead to the next question. The next question came in 2022. First look into the question. Now this question basically asks you that in the period of medieval India, the term Phanam referred to. Now what is Phanam? See, these kind of terms are very much, I already discussed in previous classes and previous videos we conducted on previous year question series, that these kind of terms are very much important. You should be able to answer these kind of questions. You should tabulate, you should make some notes about all these particular terms which are going to be asked in UPSC exams. So that's why one of those terms is Phanam. And Phanam basically comes from Panam, ya Panam, whatever you can call it. And it is basically a type of coin. Now, when were these coins circulated? When were Phanam coins circulated? So they were circulated in the kingdom of Vijayanagar, or we can say Cholas, and these kind of kingdoms, they were circulated, Nayaks. So under these particular kingdoms and under these particular rulers, these coins were circulated and they were in gold and silver. Okay, so the Phanam coins were in gold and silver. So this is a very important question, and these kind of terms are going to come in your upcoming exams 2025 or 2026. So these kind of questions can come. So that's why it is important for you all so to take note of such terms while you study the medieval India part. Okay. So the next question is, with reference to Indian history, consider the following statements. Now it's a statement based question. So first of all, just read these questions, read these statements. Now while you go through these statements, what you'll find is that these questions are about Mongol invasion. Mongols, there are a lot of legends about Mongols, about Genghis Khan and all these people, and they are a part of pop culture also, mostly Genghis Khan. So this question is about Mongol invasions in India or Indian subcontinent. Now the first statement says that the first Mongol invasion of India happened during the reign of Jalaluddin Khilji. Now who was Jalaluddin Khilji? Jalaluddin Khilji was the first sultanate of Khalji sultanates. Okay, now there were 4 different kinds of during the Sultanate rule, there were 4 different dynasties which came into existence. Okay, and Khaljis were next to Mamluks. Mamluks was led by Iltutmish, and before that slave dynasty, so it was started by Kutubuddin Aibak. But starting from Iltutmish, it was called Mamluks. After Mamluks came Khaljis. After Khaljis came Tughlaqs, and after Tughlaqs came Sayyids. Okay, and after that Lodhis, which were basically toppled by Babur in the first battle of Panipat. And then Mughal rule started. So this is basically the chronology of all those who came to India during that period. Now this first statement says that the first Mongol invasion of India happened during the reign of Jalaluddin Khalji, which is wrong. First Mughal invasion didn't happen during Jalaluddin Khilji. Jalaluddin Khilji was basically the father-in-law of Alauddin Khilji. Where a very famous movie came a couple of years back, Padmavat, in which there is a scene also in which Jalaluddin Khalji directs something or says something to Alauddin Khalji. So these kind of things you might have seen in pop culture references also. So the first Mongol invasion didn't happen during Jalaluddin Khilji, it happened during Balban. Balban had to face the wrath, and before that, even during Iltutmish, we'll address a particular question about what happened during Iltutmish later on this series only. But during Iltutmish, Mongols were about to attack. They were after the ruler of some other place, Khwarjin. And Khwarjin was not given asylum by Iltutmish, because of which Mongols didn't come to India. It was a diplomatic move. It was a very good move, because Mongols were very strong at that point in time, and just to invite their wrath would have been a foolish idea. But when did Mongols invaded India, tried to invade India first time? It happened during Balban, not Jalaluddin Khilji. So the first statement is incorrect. Now what about the second statement? During the reign of Alauddin Khalji, one Mongol assault marched up to Delhi and besieged the city. Now try to understand, this was the only incident when Mongols came so close. Okay, they almost crossed Yamuna river and they reached Delhi. And because of this only, during Alauddin Khilji's reign, what basically happened is that he made a garrison, a garrison fort called Siri Fort nowadays. This fort Alauddin constructed for garrison purposes, for keeping up arms, ammunitions and all these kind of things when Mongols invaded and reached Delhi. So the second statement is right. Now what about the third statement? The third statement says that Muhammad bin Tughlaq temporarily lost portions of northwest of his kingdom to Mongols. See, none of the Sultanate rulers lost anything to Mongols. First of all, this is very important to be known. And during Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who was a later Sultan in the whole Delhi Sultanate phase, during that time, Mongols were not at all a very important force to reckon with. To start, because try to understand, during Muhammad bin Tughlaq, they were not a force, they were not attacking India that much. So the whole point or the whole argument this statement is giving you, that the Sultan lost portions of northwest of India temporarily, doesn't make any sense. So that's why this statement is also wrong. Anyway, I told you in the second statement that the closest or the viable threat or a very practical threat which Mongols ever became was during Alauddin Khilji only. And Muhammad bin Tughlaq came after Khilji. So that's why this statement is also wrong. So the correct statement is 2 only. The correct answer is B. Okay. Now, the next question. See, the next question is again about a particular term. See, these kind of things happen in medieval India, ancient India. You will find these kind of terms, these kind of questions in your exam. I have already advised you all to go through Tamil Nadu SCRT. I find it a very important book as far as ancient India and particularly Sangam age is concerned. See, these other terms at least you can pronounce, but in case of Sangam literature terms, it will be really hard for you all, basically North Indians, the cow belt people, to even pronounce those terms. So in order to take care of such questions, you need to make notes about all those key terms which are written in Tamil Nadu SCRT about Sangam age. And as far as medieval is concerned, you need to make notes from NCRTs and other standard books about these terms. Okay, so just go through this question first. This question asks you that with reference to Indian history, who of the following were known as Kulah Daran? Kuladaran, who were known as Kuladaran. Okay, so Kuladaran basically means turban wearers. Kula is turban and Daran means bearers. Okay, wearers. Now, who were turban wearers? Turban wearers, basically Sayyids. Sayyids were known as Kuladaran. Why were Sayyids called Kuladaran? See, the thing is, as far as Islamic mythology, Islamic history goes, Sayyids are regarded as the descendants of Prophet Muhammad. Okay, the last prophet. So that's why they, just to have a distinctive feature about their own genealogy, okay, they wear a particular turban. It's a very beautiful turban. So you might have seen in various places, in various Islamic progressions, that some people are wearing this kind of turban. So that's why these people are known as Kuladaran, turban wearers. So Sayyids is the right answer to this particular question. Fine. These kind of terms are very, very important. You need to take care of such terms. Now the next question is, question number 5. With reference to medieval India, which one of the following is the correct sequence in ascending order in terms of size? Okay, now this is also very important. See, try to understand. I have already told this n number of times that you need to get into the depth of whatever you are studying. Even when you are studying medieval, and I know there is a habit among aspirants for like last 10-15 years that while going through medieval India, they take shortcuts. They read some very basic books. They even go to Lucent, which will never give you conceptual clarity about what actually was what. So that's why I'm suggesting you that stick to standard books, go to NCRTs, read those things, or some standard historians take on the NCRT. So then you'll be able to handle these kind of questions, because these are conceptual questions only. They basically want you to, you might mug up that what is basically Pargana, or you might mug up what is Sarkar or Suba. But when you'll be asked, and if you'll not have conceptual clarity about what is what, then you'll not be able to handle these kind of questions where you have been asked that which unit proceeds to other unit. So that's why this is whole question about civil administration of medieval time. So that's why these kind of questions are important to be taken seriously, and these kind of topics are very important to be taken seriously. That's why the first one is Pargana, Sarkar and Suba. This is the right answer actually. The A is the right answer. And why is it the right answer? Pargana was a cluster of villages. Now what are cluster of villages? See, even now there is a district in Bengal known as 24 Parganas. Now what are 24 Parganas? Erstwhile what used to happen earlier was that 24 Pargana district might be basically a cluster of 24 villages. So that's why it's been named like that. So Pargana is the smallest unit among all the three which have been mentioned here. Next is Sarkar. Sarkar was basically a district level unit. And the next one is Suba. Suba is province. The head of Suba was known as Subedar. Subedar was basically, we can compare from modern times, though we have democracy at that time there was, we can say despotism, but Suba basically stands for, if you find equivalence to it, it will be like a state. And the head of state is governor. So Subedar was governor, and state basically meant Suba. During British times, it was known as province. So basically, Suba is a province. So the correct ascending order in terms of size is Pargana, Sarkar, and then Suba. Got it? Now, the next question is, first of all, read this particular question. It's a very, very good question. It is again a conceptual question. Unless and until you have read Vijayanagar Empire in detail and you know the intricacies of Vijayanagar Empire and how it used to operate and what happened in the zenith of the civilization of Vijayanagar Empire, you'll not be able to handle these kind of questions. You'll be making some kind of mistake. So that's why I again suggest you that go into depth of whatever you are studying. And this question basically asks you that, according to Portuguese writer Nunes, the women in Vijayanagar Empire were experts in which of the following areas? Now, if you don't know about the socio-economic or the society of Vijayanagar Empire, then you'll not be able to handle these kind of questions, because the position of women, you'll be able to understand the position of women only when you look into that topic from that aspect. If you'll not look into that particular topic from that aspect, from the women's aspect, from the women's point of view, then you'll not be able to handle these kind of questions. So it says, it basically asks you that what kind of functions or what kind of activities were women of Vijayanagar Empire involved with. The first one is wrestling. The second one is astrology, accounting, and then soothsaying. Okay, what is soothsaying? Fortune telling. It is basically fortune telling. Okay, so these are some activities, and as a matter of fact, women of Vijayanagar Empire were involved in all of these activities. The correct answer is D. Now, what it tells about the Vijayanagar Empire? It tells about Vijayanagar Empire is that Vijayanagar Empire was very progressive towards women. They were given these kind of activities and they were involved in these kind of activities. Wrestling, they were involved with wrestling. They were involved with astrology, accounting. Now, these kind of activities are, we can say there is a legacy of only men to be associated with these kind of activities. But as you can see here, that all of these activities, we can say that even women of Vijayanagar Empire were involved in that. So that's why it tells a lot about Vijayanagar Empire and how progressive it was. Okay, so the correct answer is D. Now, going ahead to the next question. See, the next question is again a statement-based question. Just read it once. Now, while reading through it, you will see that it is again about Genghis Khan and Mughals and all these kind of things. Okay, and the various invasions which happened during Sultanate period. Okay, so the first statement says that it seems there is some technical issue. Okay, so let's assume with this particular session, it seems there was some technical glitch. So, talking about question number 7, it talks about the various invasions which happened during Sultanate period, as I was telling earlier. So, while going through that, what you will notice is that the first statement tells you or asks you that it was during the reign of Iltutmish that Genghis Khan reached the Indus in the pursuit of fugitive Khwarezm prince. I already discussed it. I already told you that whatever happened or whatever Mongol invasions or probable Mongol invasions which could have happened, they started during Iltutmish, and Iltutmish played a very important role here. That at the peak of Mongol's power, and when Genghis Khan was after the whole wide world, and he tried to conquer the whole wide world, out of his diplomatic move, Iltutmish saved Indian subcontinent from the wrath of Mongols. Okay, they were very much known about plundering and all these kind of activities. So it was a good move from Iltutmish for himself as well as for Indian subcontinent people also. So the first statement is correct. Now what about the second statement? The second statement says that it was during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq that Taimur occupied Multan and crossed the Indus. Now see, try to understand. I am not giving you a hint or something or some key through options that how can you eliminate if one is right, then 1 and 2 only can be right, and all these kind of things. I am not going to tell you all those things. Try to understand the concept behind all these statements. What is the concept behind it? See, Muhammad bin Tughlaq was a strong ruler. Okay, of course there were a lot of issues during his reign, but still he was a very strong ruler. So will it be possible for an invader to come during his period, his reign, and make it possible that he'll basically start occupying some region which comes under Muhammad bin Tughlaq? It is really, it's hard to comprehend. So that's why the second statement is incorrect, because this happened. Of course this thing happened. Taimur occupied Multan and crossed the Indus, but this didn't happen during Muhammad bin Tughlaq. It happened during the last Tughlaq ruler. So that's why this statement is incorrect. It happened after Muhammad bin Tughlaq, not during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So the second statement is incorrect. Now what about the third statement? It was during the reign of Devarai II of Vijayanagar Empire that Vasco da Gama reached the coast of Kerala. Now when did Vasco da Gama reach the coast of Kerala? It's a watershed event. You all must be knowing that particular year. It happened in 1498. Got it? It happened in 1498. Now what you need to remember is that does Devarai II, was he even ruling Vijayanagar Empire? Was he the ruler of Vijayanagar Empire during 1498? So no, it is wrong. It happened quite earlier. Now what was happening around 1498? See, around 1498 what was happening? The base for Taluva dynasty. From which dynasty? See, in Vijayanagar Empire there were various dynasties which have happened. Like in the same case in Delhi Sultanate also various dynasties came. In the same way in Vijayanagar Empire also various dynasties came. And Krishnadev Rai, who was the greatest king of Vijayanagar Empire, he belonged to Taluva dynasty and he took reign in 1509. So the base for that taking over was taking place during 1498. During 1498, what basically was happening was that Nayaks, okay, Nayaks were basically running the empire, Vijayanagar Empire, de facto, they were running it de facto. Of course, ruler was different. But de facto rulers were Nayaks. And that Nayak de facto ruler's son was Krishnadev Rai. So basically, the ground was being prepared for Krishnadev Rai to become, or the Taluva dynasty to take over the Vijayanagar Empire. So that's why the third statement is also incorrect. Got it? So the correct answer is one only. Now let's go to the next question. Next question is again about chronology. Okay, what happened? Now, as you have been seeing, these kind of questions are becoming quite common in last 4-5 years in UPSC. So you need to understand that what is the chronology of various important rulers or dynasties which appeared during medieval period. This is very important to take care of, and that's why I am asking you to read it in depth so that these kind of questions you will be able to handle through concept only, that okay, during that time this happened, during this time that happened. And if you read it in depth, then you'll not be able to get confused while dealing these kind of questions during UPSC exam, actual exam. So this question is asking you what is the consider the following events and the correct chronology order. Now, which of the particular event happened for the first among all these four? The first thing which happened was establishment of Pallava ruler under Mahendravarman I. When did this happen? This happened in the early part of 7th century. Early part of 7th century means around 600 to 630. These kind of things happened during 600 current era, from 600 to 630 current era. Understood? So the first event which occurred was establishment of Pallava power under Mahendravarman I. Then what happened after that? The thing which happened after that was Pala dynasty founded by Gopala. Okay. Now Pala dynasty, where did Pala dynasty appear? Pala dynasty appeared in Bengal province. Okay, Bengal, Bihar, and they used to cover all these areas. And Pal rulers have a very important role in the culture part of India also. See, try to understand, the Buddhist universities or the Buddhist monasteries were not in a good condition, and these Pala rulers only were the reason because of which all these monasteries were able to be rebuilt. they rebuilt it, they reconstructed it, they helped funding them so that they can sustain. So Pala rulers are very much important in the history, in the cultural history of India. Now, what happened after that? The thing which happened after that, the event which happened after that was a rise of Pratiharas under King Bhoj. See, I talked about another Bhoj who was a Parmar king. Now, this particular King Bhoj, Raja Bhoj, and he is famous with the name of Raja Bhoj. Okay, Raja Bhoj belonged to Pratihara's dynasty. So, the next thing which happened was rise of Pratiharas under King Bhoj. And what was the last event among all these? The last one was establishment of Chola power under Pratanka. Now, who are these Cholas? These are imperial Cholas, also known as imperial Cholas, because under them only these huge temples, Brideshwar temple and all these kind of temples were constructed, and they were able to conquer northern part of their kingdom, also northern regions from their kingdom, and also they were able to conquer southeast countries, Sri Lanka and these kind of places. So they were a huge naval power. So that's why they are known as Imperial Cholas. Famous rulers from this Imperial Chola period or Imperial Chola dynasty was Rajaraja, Rajendra Chol, and all these kind of people. A very famous movie came recently, PS1. Okay, PS1 and PS2. Ponnivi Selvam 1 and Ponnivi Selvam 2. It is all about Chola rulers, Imperial Chola rulers. Okay, so that's why the last event which happened was establishment of Chola power by Pratanka 1. So the correct answer is 2413. Fine. Now the next question is, now again this is very, we can say, conceptual question, because you need to understand that which particular officers were given which kind of roles and which kind of powers they used to exercise during Mughal period. Okay, Mughal India. I anyway told in the starting of this session that how did Mughal came into picture through Babur. Nowadays these all topics are anyway very much in news, for of course for wrong reasons. But Babur came to India in 1526, conquered, of course he attacked before that couple of times, but he was able to secure victory in 1526 during first battle of Panipat over Ibrahim Lodi. And then he established Mughal empire here, and then of course it went on till Aurangzeb and later on even later Mughals who were weak by nature. So that's how the whole Mughal empire went in India. So the first statement tells you, or the theme of this particular question is Jagirdars and Zamindars. So you need to know what kind of officers were assigned during Mughal empire. The first statement says Jagirdars were holders of land assignments in lieu of judicial and police duties. Now who were Jagirdars? Jagirdars were revenue assignees. The correct term for them which might be used is revenue assignees. They were given revenue assignment against what? In lieu of what? In lieu of judicial and police duties. No, not judicial and police duties. Against military duties. And it was not even a hereditary position. It could have been taken away from one Jagirdar and given to another Jagirdar. If some Jagirdar starts getting very powerful and he might become a threat for the Mughal empire, it was a very centralized system, then he can be removed and that particular Jagirdari can be given to another person. It was basically a version of Mansabdari system only. So there were some Jats and Sawars, how much cavalry they can hold and how much horses they can have, and how many infantry they can have. So these kind of questions were, these kind of points were secured for Jagirdari and all these kind of officers. So that's why the first statement is correct, and basically what has happened in this particular statement is that the roles of Jagirdars and Zamindars are basically interchanged. And that is how this particular statement is wrong, because Zamindars were basically given, they were what we can say, they were hereditary owners of land. And they were given rights, or they had that power to have civil administration of that region. So they had to perform police and judicial functions. But we can't say the same about Jagirdars. because Jagirdars had to maintain troops. So these are two different functions. A particular officer is taking care of military functions. Another one is taking care of civil functions. What comes under civil functions? Police functions, judicial functions. So that's why first statement is wrong. And in the same way, the second statement is also wrong, because it is saying that land assignment of Jagirdars were hereditary. No, it was not hereditary. I anyway told you that in case of Jagirdars, if the Mughal administration or the Mughal emperor, if he thought that a particular Jagirdar is getting too powerful, and basically we can say the spies inform that particular king that this Jagirdar might cause some problem in future, he might become some kind of rebel, then they used to take away that particular Jagirdari from him and give those particular functions to some other Jagirdar, some other person. So that's why it was not at all hereditary. What about Zamindari? Zamindari was indeed hereditary, because Zamindars were anyway had hereditary rights over that land. Those land pieces, those pieces of land were, we can say that, were of their forefathers. So that's why Zamindars had hereditary take or hereditary right over that piece of land. And of course, the whole genealogy of or whole hereditary of that particular Zamindar will have police and judicial functions, all the civil functions. So all the civil functions will remain in that family only. So the second statement is also wrong. In this statement also, the hereditary, the point of hereditary and the hereditary rights over Zamindari and Jagirdari thing is interchanged. So that's why this is also a wrong statement. So the correct answer is neither 1 nor 2. Okay. So let's move to the last question of this session, which basically says that building Kalyan Mandaps was a notable feature in the temple construction of the kingdom of. Now just go through this question once. This question is again asking about a particular term. It is asking about Kalyan Mandaps. What were Kalyan Mandaps? And not what were Kalyan Mandaps, it is not basically explaining what are Kalyan Mandaps, which I am going to tell you right now. It is basically asking you that under whose kingdom, under which dynasty Kalyan Mandap was a notable feature. Now what were Kalyan Mandaps? Kalyan Mandaps were basically the spaces where marriages used to happen. We can say that a medieval version of banquet halls. So that's why Kalyan Mandap, and it is Mandap, so one can take a cue from here also that when it is being called Mandaps, so it got to do something with marriage ceremony or something. So, and under whom these Kalyan Mandaps were notable feature? It was a notable feature under Vijayanagar Empire. So again, there are some, I just want to make you all understand that there are some very important themes in UPSC. Vijayanagar Empire is a very important period, theme, topic, whatever you want to call it. It is very important for you all to go through the Vijayanagar Empire phase and what was the socio-economic status of people during those times. What kind of, again, the very important feature, Gopuram. Gopuram is a very important feature of Vijayanagar temples. You can go through all the Hampi temples and try to see that which all Hampi temples which are from Hampi. Hampi is a place, it used to be capital of Vijayanagar Empire for a period. So, you need to take care of all these things, that what are these special features and how can you mug them up? How are you going to remember them? Either you make notes or you make chits, whatever you want to make, you make, but the actual purpose of making all these or discussing all these points is that you need to take extra care of these periods, Vijayanagar Empire, or when we call Delhi Sultanate, how things went during that. See, these questions are all about depth. If you are reading those topics in depth, see, now you don't have time. If the recent coming up civil services exam pre is under your concern, you need to revise your facts, okay, as much as you can. So just go through your notes and give extra care to these periods, especially I am telling you Vijayanagar Empire, because it is a particular theme which UPSC can repeat time and again. It is such a theme that UPSC can repeat in 25, 26, 27. and they will have no qualms about it. Nobody can question UPSC that why are you repeating the same theme, because it's a very important theme. So that's why please take care of your preparation, and let's meet in another session in the next week. Thank you.